Welcome, everybody. This is Shannon, along with my buddy Mark.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing great. It's Saturday night. Svengoolie's on tonight.
He is. We're not going to
Can't
talk
beat
about
that.
Svengoolie, though. We, sh- we
Oh,
should
that's too bad.
we should see if we could get Svengoolie on sometime. He'd probably do
That
it
would.
too.
Oh, I'm sure he would.
But tonight we're going to talk about the Phantom Killer.
Ooh,
they, sh-
creepy.
they should have done that in the movie. Like every time we went to kill somebody, be like, "Ooh,"
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
like a ghost.
That would make it much scarier.
So for those of you who are not familiar with the Phantom Killer, that is the killer from the film The Town That Dreaded Sundown. And tonight we're going to talk about both the 1977 version of that movie,
76.
76, 77, whenever it came out, and the 2014 version as well. But first, I wanted to give a little bit of feedback, or not feedback, a little bit of history on the story of the Phantom Killer, because I know in the 70s, one of the things that a lot of the horror movies of that day used to do was based on a true story to get people to go to the movie, and then a lot of times it really wasn't based on the true story at all.
Now we can think of one movie in particular that did that, and probably one of the best known horror movies of all times.
Star Wars, no.
Yeah, Star Wars, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre was notorious for that as well. But the original, The Town That Dreaded Sundown, was based off of the 1946 killing spree in Texarkana that were commonly referred to as the Moonlight Murders. I think it was only went on for a month and a half or 2 months or so, maybe a little bit longer.
Actually, it was February to May of that year, so that was 3 months. March, April, May.
Yeah,
Yep,
so
or 3 to 4 months, something like that. Yeah.
yeah, and then I think it was 8-10 people that were attacked down there, and only not I shouldn't say only a few of them, only a handful of them died. I believe only 5 of them actually died.
Yeah. Yeah. It says ultimately would claim 5 lives, and many others were injured.
And so then that's where we got the movie The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Now the thing too with this, the Phantom Killer, apparently, I believe, well, there was a couple who did survive, and these were all kind of like, your classic lovers lane murders. The couple going out, in the woods to make out, and then this is where this killer would appear. And one of the couples did survive. One of the ones that did survive did see him, and they basically described the killer, or should I say the Phantom Killer, to be wearing a white hood, which, when we talk about the movie, we'll mention that as well. That the killer is wearing a white hood, kind of like I don't know, how would you describe it? Like kind of like a pillowcase or a sack or something that he wears on his head with holes cut out for the eyes.
Yeah, like a pillowcase, or I almost was gonna say potato sack, but that's not right.
Well, yeah, it could be some kind of sack like that. And if for you horror movie fans out there, it's very reminiscent, and you could probably see how this probably had a big influence on Friday the 13th Part 2, and that was actually Jason's look prior to the infamous hockey mask from Part 3. He wore the sheet or the sack over his head. I think they actually, nowadays, with Jason being a huge horror movie icon, people call that particular version of Jason Sackhead Jason. So Sackhead Jason came from or was inspired by the Phantom Killer.
Sackhead Jason.
Sackhead Jason.
From now on, whenever I see a Friday the 13th movie, that's how I'm going to refer to Jason as Sackhead Jason.
But prior to Hockey Head or Hockey Mask Jason, it was Sackhead.
Yeah, I guess it's better than me being called Ball Sack Jason.
Yeah, a little bit.
That would be pretty bad.
That would be.
Yeah, so I believe that the original tagline for The Town That Dreaded Sundown was "The incredible story you are about to see is true, where it happened and how it happened. Only the names have been changed." And I know I read at some point, we're not going to get into like the specific details of the entire movie, but I do know that I read, I think it was in Horror Hound, when they did a spread on The Town That Dreaded Sundown, and I think it even said in that one that some of the movie or the murders in the movie were actually designed or however coordinated around the actual murders that did take place, which is kind of cool and kind of creepy at the same time.
Yeah, I think they took it. It went pretty similar to the actual events. I know there was some of it was a little. There was a little bit more thematic elements added to it, like well, just to give I guess since we're talking about it, the movie starts out. It's 1946, Texarkana, Arkansas, and the very beginning of the film, it's a couple. They go out to Lover's Lane and they're attacked by the Phantom Killer. They survive, and this couple they do survive, and the woman, she ends up dragging herself to the road, and somebody finds her, a passerby. And when they arrive to the hospital, it's revealed that the woman, the man was just beat. I think he was beat with the butt of a handgun. But the woman, they say that she was bitten and chewed on different parts of her body, which was kind of creepy. But actually, that is not true. That did not happen. So that was an embellishment from the actual events. The true events, she was actually just injured on the top of the head when he beat her with a pipe or something like that. So, but that's kind of the start of the film. It starts out pretty intense. What'd you think of that? You got the couple out there in the little car, and then here comes the Phantom Killer. He pops open the hood, rips out, some wires, looks like he's ripping out the spark plug wires. And then he comes across to the side of the car and starts breaking through the glass and attacking them. Pretty brutal opening.
Yeah, and I do, when I first saw the movie, the original, which it wasn't that long ago. It was maybe 4 or 5 years ago when I read about it in the Horror Hound magazine. And I thought for some reason that this was a made-for-TV movie. I don't know why I thought that, but I did. And so I remember the first time when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is kind of violent for a made-for-TV movie. Especially one that would have came out, in the mid-late, 70s. But, overall, it's a good, the original movie it's a good slasher movie. Even though I don't know if it technically would have been considered a slasher movie at the time.
Definitely not at the time. Yeah, that term hadn't been coined yet. This is kind of like what we call now, looking back, a proto-slasher. So this is like right before the formula was. They were kind of putting together the formula, and then of course it was Black Christmas. You could even kind of maybe toss in Texas Chainsaw. Has kind of elements of a slasher film, but this and Black Christmas especially, and then where it really got was the slasher film was really put on the tracks, and the the design was perfectly made was in '78 with Halloween. So yeah, pretty much anything prior to Halloween, I think now it kind of goes under that whole proto slasher genre. So yeah, this would be, the mass killer, the stalking scenes. Um, yeah, very much like that.
Yeah, I do remember the first time I saw it. Yeah, I thought it was for the most part really good. But again, you got to remember too when I first saw it, I was under the impression that it was a made-for-TV movie, and I'd have to dig up that old Horror Hound magazine and see if there was something in there that said about it being made for TV. And maybe it could just be now because I know like when this movie came out, and I mean when it came out, it was in the '70s, so there wasn't, there wasn't home video at the time, and so I don't know if I just read in the article about it, it started picking up steam like on cable or something, or on late night horror shows. I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it probably did. I think I read somewhere that it did that too. That it kind of made its mark on TV, and it's one of those movies too. It probably when it came out, there probably wasn't a huge. It wasn't probably a big reception from the audience. It just sort of kind of came and went. But then as TV and cable and whatnot pick it up, and then it's played more often in the evening and what have you. Then people remember these movies, and then they want to go back and find them. And I know it's kind of at that place now where it's sort of hitting that cult status, where people kind of remember it. Yeah, it's funny because this movie, for me, this was one of those movies. See, I had sort of like I got the mother filter with this film, and there's a few movies like this for me where my mom would tell me about these movies, but she wouldn't let me see them, but she would tell me about them. And this was one of those films where my mom had seen this movie at the drive-in or something with my dad when they were dating, and she would always kind of tell me about this. There was this movie, and this is like when I'm a little kid, and she's like, yeah, there's this really terrifying movie about this guy, and he wears this hood over his head, and he goes out and kills people, and it's just so horrifying, and she would say this, and it would so like build it up in my mind, like, wow, this movie must be terrifying. Then I remember seeing like the box of it at the video store, and like, oh, this is the one you were talking about, and she wouldn't let me rent it, but and she had built it up as like this, oh, it was like probably the scariest movie ever made. So needless to say, I was a little disappointed when I finally saw it, but yeah, I think it definitely, definitely holds up in terms of the phantom scenes, like this whole opening scene. Yeah, I mean, it is pretty frightening. They did a really good job with that.
See, I think we talked about this in the Halloween episode, but I know that my mother did the same thing, like sort of that way with me with The Exorcist. Because when she saw The Exorcist, when Exorcist came out, she was like 16 or 17 or whatever, and they'd never seen anything like that, and it gave her nightmares for like 3 days.
Yeah.
And then when my oldest daughter, when I showed her the original Halloween, she was like, "Oh, this movie's boring." Like, what are you talking about? But
yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of funny when you see stuff now that, I mean, half the stuff now, even some of this stuff, and I think we talked about this too, but some of the stuff, if you were to even show probably a lot of the movies that even when we were kids, or even like this, the original on probably even network television, it probably wouldn't really get edited out too much. More than anything, it would probably be the language would be about it. And then again, depending on where it got played, because I know, like if you watch any of the shows like on FX or AMC, it seems like they throw some language in there, not a lot. I know like on AMC or not AMC, whichever one American Horror Story's on, FX.
FX, yeah.
You know, they have to throw shit in like every episode at least once, and it's usually like it's gotten to the point where they say it like 3 or 4 times an episode just because they can. You know, and sometimes
right.
It'd be like some like conversation, and then you got to be shitting me. Well, ain't that the shits? You know, kind of stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, some of these old movies, and the original, the Town That Dreaded Sundown, is probably one of those too, where if you watch it on TV now, there might be a few language edits, but other than commercial breaks, it's pretty much probably the same movie as it was back then.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would probably say, especially nowadays. But yeah, that intro scene is pretty intense with the Phantom Killer. Then it goes into Deputy Ramsey, and this is kind of like the main character who's kind of on the hunt for this guy. He believes the killer will strike again, and sure enough, there's another couple who are killed, and he happens to be nearby when that happens. He hears gunshots. Both of the victims are shot. He goes into the scene of the crime. He sees a car. He witnesses a car, and he sees the killer get away. So he knows that the car is there, and that's kind of at this point, or he knows what the car looks like. So he's kind of looking for this particular car, and at this point, this is when he gets the Phantom name, and then they kind of come to the conclusion that there's no real motive for this killer. And then after this, we're introduced to Captain Morales, which is he's like a famous criminal investigator and Texas Ranger, and he's brought onto the case. And see, now this is where the movie to me gets this is where it really slows down, is all of this detective work. And I don't know if you caught you remember all the ridiculous humor in this movie with the cops and with this new guy, like when he comes into town and the new deputy forgets to bring the keys because he's like going to be his official driver, and like there's this really terrible joke about him forgetting the keys, and they keep going on and on about it, and you know they play this ridiculous clown music. Yeah, so everything with the investigation, I think the movie really comes to a halt. So you get this these intense phantom scenes where he's attacking people, and it's I think very realistic and very much like, it almost kind of reminded me of, we've brought the Texas Chainsaw Massacre up. It almost had that kind of gritty feel where it's almost documentary style the way you're watching it, like those scenes. And I mean, what do you think of that? I mean, it doesn't seem like just your typical like Hollywood slasher. It seems like a little bit more uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah, I think at that time they weren't really going for a slasher movie. I think it was supposed to be more of a suspense movie.
Yeah,
with some scares in it, and then because they didn't know what they were doing, they were trying to lighten the mood with some bad humor.
Right. Yeah. Well, there you go. Perfect. Yeah. So they're doing that to lighten the mood. Yeah. Just to give it a little bit more variety or what have you. But yeah. Oh, horrible humor.
Yeah. Bad all around. Yep.
And then.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and then at this point, once they get this Texas Ranger involved, and they start putting out decoys. So, the cops will go out in Lover's Lane and pretend they're a couple, where one of them will wear a wig and what have you, and so they're trying to get bait this killer, and then shortly thereafter comes probably one of the most memorable kills in this movie, and that is there's a couple that are leaving their prom, and the female is a trombone player, so she has her trombone with her, and this kill to me was pretty. I don't know. It was pretty hard to watch for the way it's done. He kills the boyfriend. The boyfriend kind of drags himself up, or he beats the boyfriend with a pipe, and the boyfriend's kind of like half alive and trying to escape, and then he ends up shooting him. But then he takes the girl, ties her to a tree, and then ties a knife to the end of the trombone, and then every time he blows into the trombone, he extends I don't know, what would you call that on a trombone, where you like pull the thing back,
the slide.
the slide, and then the knife is attached to it, so he's stabbing the girl in the back while he's doing that. And I thought that part was pretty creepy. I mean, just like that he came up with that idea, like that, hey, I'm gonna, be a little more creative about this one, and hey, we'll use this trombone here.
Yeah, and
that just seemed pretty.
I wonder if like that murder, the way that happened, if that didn't actually really happen that way or similar. Way.
I don't know. We should. I have no idea. I don't know if that was. I didn't look that up. That's something that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I was trying to do some research to see if I could find a comparison, and I'm sure it's out there. There's got to be a book or something. But yeah, that was one of the things because I remember that that kill, and that kills. There's a similar kill to that in the second one, of course. But if that murder is because the murders supposedly are similar to the way that they actually did happen, if there was a kill that actually happened that way, because that's some pretty serious shit right there. I mean,
yeah,
what the hell are you thinking? Like,
yeah, that's pretty crazy. And then like anytime you see him too, I thought it was, I thought it was pretty creepy. I think around this time he's starting to, it looks like he's kind of like hyperventilating underneath the hood. I know, like when you'll see kind of the mask moving underneath his mouth, and and then when he blows into the thing, it's just, yeah, it's very creepy. Very creepy that he came up with that. But so then after this scene, we've got like there's the detective or the deputy and this Texas Ranger are still looking for him. They have no leads, and then a bunch of people start turning themselves in, and they're just basically nut jobs who are trying to take credit for these kills, for these murders. And then it goes into the next scene, which I thought was one of the best in terms of suspense and a scary horror scene. Was there's a couple that live in a secluded farmhouse, and they're attacked, and the husband's just sitting reading the newspaper in an easy chair, and then the phantom killer comes up behind him from the behind him in a window and shoots him in the back of the head and like the neck, and then he shoots the wife, and I guess the bullet goes through her face, and she survives, and then the killer breaks into the house, and he's like inspecting the body of the husband, and meanwhile the woman, she slides out of the house, kind of crawls out of the back door, and like they live on a farm, and there's like a big cornfield, and so she slides into the cornfield, and he sees that she's escaped, and he grabs a pickaxe, and he's like stalking her through the cornfield. I thought that was a pretty effective scene. And that's actually one of the scenes my mom would always tell me about when I was little. Like, oh yeah, there's a scene where she's trying to hide in the corn, and that always seemed pretty creepy. But that woman, I don't know if you recognized her.
I got nothing.
It was, the actress's name is Dawn Wells, and she also played Mary Ann in Gilligan's Island.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yep.
So, but yeah, she ends up surviving, makes her way to like the neighbor's house or something, and he helps her, and then so she's one of the ones who survives.
Yeah, and then that's kind of like the end of the movie, really, because then the Phantom Killer runs off, and then they never catch him, and he never strikes again. And then the end of the movie is the movie coming out, and there's a premiere in Texarkana, and then it's one of those scenes where you have to be like paying attention to know what's actually going on because there's a shot of the Phantom's shoe standing in line to get tickets for the movie. All right, so that's enough about the original The Town That Dreaded Sundown. So we're going to go ahead and let's get talking about the meta sequel.
Grandma, do you remember anything about the murders?
Your great-grandpa and your great-grandma lived in this house when it happened. He was the boogeyman, they said. Can't catch the boogeyman. Can't kill the boogeyman. You know, before that summer, everybody would leave their doors unlocked. And after the summer, you saw a stranger, you'd run the other way. And now, he's back.
Ooh, he's back.
Creepy. I will say the trailer is very effective. I thought they did a good job putting that trailer together.
That's about the only good thing they did with that movie.
So coming right into it, then you're not a fan of The Town That Dreaded Sundown 2014, the meta sequel.
Not at all. And I'll tell you, because it was one of those things where I thought it was going to be a straight up remake. I didn't realize that it was going to be a 30 years later or whatever the hell however they did it.
Right.
It's a meta sequel, and for those of you who don't know what that means, you actually probably do. You just don't realize it. So what a meta sequel means is it's a sequel of the movie that is not directly related to the first one. And what I mean by that is it's not a continuation of the story. Another prime example of a meta sequel would be the Human Centipede Part 2. And there's a few other ones too, but basically what this movie was is Texarkana. I don't even know if they ever even really said how many years later it was, if it was 30 years later or if it was but basically how the movie starts off with is, like we were saying, at the end of the first one, they had made this movie called The Town That Dreaded Sundown. And so what we start off with the new one is everybody in Texarkana is gathered for the annual showing of The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which in this case was the original movie that was made. And so then it kind of goes through similar plot points with some changes here and there. But really it's one of these things where it's a kind of a remake, but they're saying it's not a remake. At least that's kind of the way I.
Yeah, it's very strange. It's like the movie is in the movie, so they like the original movie is what they're watching. So they're kind of like basing it off of okay, so the thing happened. Yeah, it's a very strange timeline because so they're basically saying that the murders happened in 46, 47, or whenever that original murders were, and then they made a movie about it, which was the original movie, and now they're watching that movie in the drive-in on Halloween. It's like their annual thing, and now all of a sudden there's another phantom killer who's copycatting, or he's a copycat of the original killer who the movie was based off of. So yeah, it's very confusing. So the movie is within the original is within this movie. It exists as a movie, and now we've got another phantom killer out there who is basically offing people kind of in the same way with like the whole Lover's Lane
Right.
kind of thing, and which is kind of strange because I didn't realize that was such a. I mean, because this is basically this movie, at least I believe, is supposed to be in modern times, but then yet it kind of gives off a very classic feel. Like the cars are old and
Yeah.
it's
Like
it's
a
weird.
70s type feel, kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, my opinion of the movie was a lot of it was so severely over the top that it was just completely. And not that I mean, it's supposed to be a horror movie, so it's not that it's supposed to be believable anyway. I mean, I understand that, and I don't believe that Freddy Krueger is able to be pulled out of a dream and, can turn you into a marionette puppet with your veins and different things like that.
What? That could happen. Come on now.
Yeah. So there was one scene in there where the girl was like pulled through a bathroom window and then broke her leg so severely that the bone was sticking out of her leg. And then she ran across the parking lot.
Yeah,
the leg.
That was the one thing about this movie is the original. All right, I'll say this: the good thing about this movie is it kind of like the original. I thought the Phantom killer scenes were very intense and very terrifying. Like it wasn't like it was very much in the vein of the original. However, in the original, all of these things, these murders happened like in the woods or kind of hidden away, or like the chase in the cornfield. Where this one, it like happens in such and almost like too out in the open, like the scene you're talking about where he comes in in the apartment and comes through the window, chases the girl down the road, and then they end up in her car, and that's where he ends up killing her. But it seems like somebody would have seen that, and then there's another scene where like a junkyard scene, and it's kind of like, well, what was he doing there? How did he know to go there? And there's a lot of that where it just seemed like it wasn't as well hidden as it was in the original.
Right. And even so, yeah, though, I mean, the whole thing was, I mean, there was, there's the opening murder or whatever you want to call it is where, kind of similar to the first movie where this couple is out on whatever Lover's Lane or whatever you want to call it, and they're making out, and the girl sees the Phantom killer in the shadows, and then he comes up to the car and goes to attack them, and then it's just even weird at the beginning because what you find out later on in the movie, because when he's attacking the boyfriend, he makes the girlfriend like turn around, and because he keeps saying, don't watch, or don't look. And then she can see like the shadow of him like killing the boyfriend. And then, she runs off, and, he tells her, to make sure that they remember that this is for Mary or something along those lines. So some of the scenes, like some of the murders were sort of based off of the murders in the original movie. I think it was that junkyard scene that you were talking about. So the two boys in this case leave the high school and go to this junkyard, and then you find out that they're like gay, which is whatever. I mean, not that I have a problem with that, but it was just kind of weird, like that it was the way it was in the movie, and then like they redid the trombone scene, and there was, like you were talking about at the end of the first movie where the farmer is like shot. So in this one, it's the what the heck was he? Was he a cop? I'm trying to remember the guy when he was shot in the eye. But I mean, so there's all this stuff going on, and he's getting a blowjob, and it's just, some of the stuff is just like, what the? I mean, there was through multiple times throughout the movie, I was just like, what the hell is this? It was
they basically they go back and redo a lot of those scenes, like the scene you're talking about with the cop. He's with a girl, and then he gets shot in the eye, and the killer shoots him from the window, and then the girl has to crawl out of the house and make her way through the cornfield. So it's very much the same as the original. And so they do that, and like you said, the trombone scene is redone. The scene in Lover's Lane, the couple at the beginning. So it's they kind of reenact a lot of those famous scenes, and they actually show you in the movie. They show you like the original scene too, because they've got like the original going on at a drive-in, or they show different film parts of it during the investigation. It was kind of it was. So your thoughts on, is it just was too much was going on? It was they just had like a little bit off the wall. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, some of the stuff it kind of threw me off pretty much, not right away, but early on when she got dragged out of the bathroom window and the bone is like sticking out of her leg and she runs across the parking lot on the leg, and I'm like, really? and then at the end of the movie, like, there's a giant twist in the movie, which maybe I wasn't really paying attention enough throughout the movie, because I didn't see the twist necessarily coming, but it was one of those things to where I got to the end, and I mean, it was, again, I was just kind of like, what? Why? That seems stupid.
Yeah. Should we give it away?
No, we'll leave it a cliffhanger.
All right.
And if you got anything at all, it is now when you watch Friday the 13th. Ballsack Jason.
That's it. It's going to completely change your perception of Jason Voorhees.